I have an addiction, and no, this isn't about my roguelike addiction. We've already been over that one numerous times. It's actually on a different genre of video games. It's on management games. It doesn't matter what I'm managing. It could be a park, a nation, a group of starving people. I really don't care. All that matters is that I have total control over it because for some reason that makes my brain light up with dopamine. All of these games I've spent quite a bit of time in, but none of these games have really been able to hook me quite like Rimworld. Rimworld is a sci-fi colony simulator where your ragtag group of cave miners, neuroengineers, and orphans crash land on a foreign planet, and it's your job to make sure that they don't go insane and actually survive. On this planet, your colonists will face numerous challenges such as giant bugs, cannibalistic tribes, and their pure stupidity. These colonists are some of the dumbest people I've ever seen despite what their intelligence stat says. I'm surprised that natural selection hasn't picked them off before they even got to the planet, because they will go out of their way to be nuisances. Oh, you want to have an ambrosia binge and get high as fuck? How about you don't walk towards the raiders trying to actively murder you? An example of how stupid these colonists are is a man named Aspen. Aspen's a good colonist, but Aspen over here decided he wanted more than mining in a fucking cave. He wanted to actually get some bitches. So he tried to get with another colonist, but constantly got rejected over and over and over again. This caused him to be in a bad mood all the time. He eventually actually got with her. Like new lovers, look, I put him in the double bed. But for some reason, he was still upset that he was rejected like 4 times earlier, which caused him to violently insult her half the day into the relationship, which led them to beat the fuck out of each other, causing them both to be hospitalized. Yeah, and keep in mind that this is 3 days into the colony. This is 3 days after they've crash landed and they're already beating the shit out of each other. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I think this is a restart. But despite your colonist stupidity, you unfortunately need them to progress in the game. All of them have their own little unique quirks and stats that determine whether you keep them around or if you just leave them in the gutter for them to bleed out. Or you could steal their organs and eat them. Now, that may seem barbaric to some people, but my colonists have the psychopath and cannibal trait, so this is essentially civilized to them. But you know what isn't? Eating on the ground. Oh, the horror. I have to eat my human meat on the hardwood floor? Life is truly cruel. The colonists are some of the most picky, annoying people I've ever seen in my life. These colonists will get a massive mood debuff if something doesn't slightly go the way they want. And the worst thing about this, if a colonist's mood gets too low, they'll have a break risk. This can range from going on a long walk to repeatedly punching multiple joints of weed until they seemingly disintegrate, removing all of my fucking product that I spent a month making that I was gonna sell off. Thanks, dickhead! Upon starting the game, you'll be faced with a few options before the world generates. Mainly the difficulty and the storyteller. If you're new to this game, I recommend Strive to Survive. It's not too hard of an experience, but it'll also give you a good challenge. The main thing I really want to look at is the storyteller. This mechanic makes the game infinitely replayable. The storyteller dictates the way your runs are gonna go and the events that you're gonna get along the way. There are 3 of them in the base game that you can pick from. There's Cassandra Classic, which has a more linear style of gameplay, where you get some good ones and some bad ones, and it'll eventually get harder the more and more your colonists advance. After that, we have Phoebe Chillax, I don't know how to pronounce that, which is supposed to give you a long age of peace and then send an orbital bombardment of disasters on your colony all at once. I never got to this nuke of bad events because I got bored of nothing happening and ended up deleting the world. Last, we have Randy Random, and oh boy, I really hate this guy. He looks at things like natural progression and a balanced experience as chains to hold him down. So he throws those things out of a 3rd story window and proceeds to give you the most annoying brain-numbing situations I've ever seen. You will get a random clusterfuck of shit if you play with him. 1 minute you could be getting raided by 7 tribals, and the next you could have a drop pod of husky meat or a naked guy coming down on you. There really is no telling what happens with this dude, but despite all of my annoyances with him, he is the objectively right way to play. With him, you never know what's gonna happen next. He constantly keeps you on your toes with the absurd situations, so you constantly have to keep adapting, which is why I and many other players think he is the definitive or correct way to play the game. I still hate them though. Yeah, if you couldn't tell by now, this game's pretty good. But as I mentioned before, this game is extremely addictive. I mean, take one look at the Steam reviews, and you'll see that 1,000 hours is around the norm here. And I think people get addicted because of how extremely replayable it is. Anything you want your colonists to be, you can achieve it. Cannibals, organ harvesters, drug dealers, raiders, or hell, if you want to have some real fun, you can mesh all those things together and become the most feared group of people on the Rim. And all of this is just the tip of the iceberg. And if you're taking the DLCs into account, the iceberg isn't even in sight. You are looking at clear blue skies of what to do. Unfortunately, we're not going to be touching on the DLCs because they're $20 a piece, and I don't have the money for them. But hey, we are very close to 1,000 subs, and once we get there, I'll be monetized. And did you know only 1% of you are subscribed? That is better than last time, but still not good. So how about you do your part and help get that number up so I can actually buy the DLCs. Alright, enough with the shameless plugs, we gotta get back to the video. Now, I might be exaggerating a bit, you can't do everything. Oh. Never mind, this game has a full workshop and a thriving community. These mods range from quality of life stuff to full community made DLCs. I personally recommend anything with the words vanilla and expanded in them because they're just free DLCs. They expand on some of the neglected features of the game. In my opinion, Rimworld has the most in-depth mods I've ever seen in a game. Even games like Minecraft and Skyrim, which are pretty well known for how moddable they are, don't compare to how much stuff you can add to Rimworld. As your colony progresses, you guys will somehow research new technology. I say somehow because despite the immense autism in certain situations, they're able to figure out thermal energy and microelectronics by staring at a piece of paper with nonsensical scribbles on it for hours at a time. Your colony will get stronger and stronger over time, but this will attract more and more raiders to come steal your stuff. Very common strategies to combat these raiders are building kill boxes, which are basically big fuck-off walls around your entire base, but you add in little corridors leading inside and fill them with Vietnam punji traps that the pathfinding will lead the raiders into. Unfortunately, these won't work forever, because after a faction has sent the 1,000th raider to die in your death pit of a base, they'll start engaging in sieges and bombing the fuck out of your colony. To defend against these sieges, it's important to pick a good spot for your base. You could dig into the side of a mountain. These provide good protection, but have the downside of looking ugly as hell. And you do get some unwanted visitors every now and then. If you don't like the thought of bugs infesting your living room, you can build a base out in the open, but these tend to be way harder to defend, and it takes a lot more effort to build, so be cautious of that. Once you set up a good base, you should probably start thinking about food. You can either hunt or farm. I recommend hunting, because instead of using all that land for farming potatoes, you could instead use it for smoke leaf. Yeah. Something important to remember about the Rim is that it's important to prioritize your own well-being over everyone else's. If you have a group of mechanoids on your land, that's not your problem. That's a random group of traders' problem. Opportunity is everything here, and it's so fun having a cool strategy or plan, and then profiting off of it once it actually succeeds. And I think that's what makes this game so good. There's so much stuff that happens, and it's your job to figure out how you want to handle it all. And there's a reason why it's one of my most played games on Steam. In conclusion, Rimworld's good, and you should go play some colony managers. Alright, the video is over, so I should probably tell you guys where I've been, because I kinda haven't posted in like 5 months, and I kept making community posts saying that I'd upload, and then never did. Long story short, school started up again, and I'm in high school now, so things are kind of ramping up, and I have like less free time. Also, I had like these classes that I only had to do for 1 semester that kept me in the school till 4, and then I went to the gym immediately after that, so I'd end up getting home at around 6, and I really just didn't want to edit during that time, so that's why. But those classes are over now, so hopefully I'll be able to be editing more consistently, and I'll be able to get shit out like on a monthly basis like I used to. Yeah, that's about it. I'm going to be uploading more consistently. I think my next video will either be on Shadows of Doubt or Quasimorph, and yeah, that's it.